The principal was accused of infidelity by his wife, and her family assaulted him and destroyed his career and reputation. After the truth came out that a neighbor used his photos to catfish women, she now wants reconciliation, but he's already moved on and only cares about being a father to his kids. I've worked in education for over 20 years, and I always believed that the truth had a way of rising to the surface, eventually. But nothing prepared me for how fast a lie could destroy everything I'd built. My name is Derek Mallory. I'm 45 years old, and I was the principal of Halberton Middle School in western Pennsylvania. That all changed one cold Thursday night in March, just after dinner. It started with my wife, Jana, calling me into the living room. She didn't look angry, just pale. Her hands were shaking as she held up her phone. "Derek," she said, her voice brittle. "What is this?" I stepped closer, expecting to see a bill or maybe one of the kids' grades. Instead, she tapped the screen and I saw it, screenshots from a dating app. There was a photo of me, well, my face anyway, paired with a profile that claimed I was a single man named Drew, looking for casual connections. Then came the messages, flirty, crude at times, and all supposedly sent from me. I was speechless. "Where did you get this?" I asked. "My sister. Someone in her office matched with it and recognized your face. They sent her the screenshots." "It's fake, Jana. I've never seen this app before." She blinked slowly, tears forming in her eyes. "Don't lie to me." "I swear," I said, louder than I meant to. "It's not me. I don't know who did this, but it's not me." She didn't believe me. I could see it in her eyes. Something in her had already shifted. She was already grieving the marriage, as if I died right there in front of her. Then it got worse. Her brother and sister, both in their 30s, showed up. She must have called them during the confrontation. When I refused to leave the house without explaining more, her brother, Gavin, got in my face. "You need to get out, man. You don't talk to my sister like that." "I didn't do anything," I said, trying to hold my ground. "You've known me for 10 years. You really think I'd do something like this?" But reason had left the room. Gavin shoved me hard, and I stumbled into the coffee table. Jana screamed, and before I could get up, her sister had already called the cops. 10 minutes later, I was outside in my front yard, sitting on the edge of the curb with a police officer standing over me. They didn't arrest me, but they sure didn't let me stay. I grabbed a gym bag from the hallway and walked down the block to my car, hands shaking so badly I could barely put the key in the ignition. I drove to my friend Ron's house across town. He didn't ask questions, just gave me a beer, a blanket, and the spare bedroom. The next morning, I got an email from Jenna's lawyer. She was filing for legal separation. Any communication would now go through attorneys. Within 24 hours, my life was unrecognizable. I went from respected principal and family man to an accused cheater sleeping on a pull-out couch. And all it took was a few screenshots and a family too quick to swing first and ask questions later. No one asked if I was okay. Not even Jana. Just like that, I was gone. And it felt like I might never get back. That night on Ron's couch turned into weeks. Then months. Eventually, I stopped thinking of it as temporary. I left our small town in western Pennsylvania and moved 2 hours east to Erie, where my mother had been diagnosed with stage 2 kidney disease. She needed someone to help with her medications, her checkups, just everyday life. So I became that person. And in a strange way, I was grateful for the distraction. I found a small rental near the lake, just one bedroom, creaky floors, and barely enough room for my books and the few clothes I'd salvaged. It was quiet, which I used to like. Now, silence just felt like proof that no one was looking for me. Jana and I only communicated through lawyers. We arranged for me to see the kids Claire and Ben every other weekend. I'd drive halfway to meet them at a gas station parking lot off I-79, where they'd shuffle between cars like luggage. No hugs from Jana. No words. Just a tight nod and a quick glance at the clock. The kids were different too. Not mean, just unsure. I couldn't blame them. Claire was 13 and suddenly old enough to read between the lines. Ben was 9 and still asked questions I didn't know how to answer. "Why don't you live with us anymore?" he whispered once, over chicken nuggets at a roadside diner. "Because grown-ups mess up," I said quietly. "Even when they don't mean to." He nodded like he understood. But he didn't. Not really. Back in Erie, things weren't much better. Word about my scandal had followed me like smoke. I tried applying to schools for a principal job, even teaching positions. But once they Googled my name, I'd get those polite rejection emails. We've decided to go in a different direction. Eventually, I stopped applying. I started therapy. My first session, I just sat there for 20 minutes without saying a word. My therapist didn't push. Just let me sit in it. I remember thinking, this is what shame sounds like. Meanwhile, Jana was struggling too, according to mutual friends. I heard through Ron that she'd taken on a second job at the bank, sold her car, moved into a smaller house. But she never reached out. Not once. Maybe she wanted to. Maybe she didn't. Either way, the silence between us became its own living thing, growing, breathing, curling around everything we used to be. A year passed like that. A quiet blur of rainy drives, awkward weekend visits, and long stretches of not knowing who I was anymore. I used to think grief only came after death, but it turns out you can grieve someone who's still alive. And you can grieve a version of yourself that may never come back. It was almost exactly 1 year to the day since I'd left Halberton when my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in months, Melinda Parsons. She was our old neighbor, the one who used to host the block's 4th of July parties. Kind woman, sharp as a tack. I hadn't talked to her since the fallout. The message was short. Hey, Derek, can I call you? It's important. I stared at it for a long time before finally responding. Sure. Her number popped up a minute later. Hi, Derek, she said, her voice shaking slightly. I need to tell you something. I should have told someone a long time ago. I leaned forward on the couch, heart starting to pound. Go ahead. It's about the dating app thing. The fake profile. The one that got you kicked out of your house. My throat went dry. What about it? She took a shaky breath. It was Frank. My husband. I didn't speak. Couldn't. During lockdown, he was messing around online, she continued. He found your photo on the old school website, remember? You had that shared laptop during the neighborhood tutoring sessions? Well, somehow he got into a folder with your headshots and he used them. Created a fake profile. Said it was for practice scamming lonely women. But then it just got worse. He kept doing it. I closed my eyes. My stomach turned. I didn't know at first, she went on. But I found the screenshots months ago. Messages. Whole conversations pretending to be you. And then, when Jana kicked you out, he just sat there and let it happen. Why are you telling me now? I asked, my voice flat. She started to cry. Because it's wrong. I thought if I stayed quiet it would blow over, but now I see how much damage it did. I already reported him. I gave everything to the police, screenshots, login details, the hard drive. I'm so sorry, Derek. I truly am. I hung up the phone without saying anything more. I didn't trust myself to speak. That night, I got an email from my lawyer. Attached was a scanned letter from Jana's attorney. It was a formal acknowledgement of what had happened, complete with copies of Melinda's report, statements from the police, and a forwarded apology from Jana herself. I read it 3 times. Her words were formal, mechanical. I understand now that Derek was not responsible for the messages or the account. I deeply regret the pain my actions cost. No apology. No emotion. Just regret and legalese. I replied with 1 sentence. Thank you for the update. I will speak with my lawyer if anything changes. And that was it. She'd found the truth. But the truth didn't heal. It didn't undo the nights I'd slept on Ron's couch or the way my daughter looked at me like she didn't recognize me. For Jana, the fog had lifted. For me, the damage was already done. Forgiveness wasn't something I could summon on command. I was innocent, but I didn't feel free. And she, finally seeing the mess she helped create, looked more lost than ever. Thanksgiving passed without a word between us. Christmas was creeping closer, and the snow in Halberton always seemed to arrive right on time, like it was on payroll. Through mutual contacts, Jana found out I'd be visiting the kids for 3 days over the holiday break. She wasn't supposed to know, but she did. And that's when she started planning. I didn't find out until later, but she'd been meeting with a therapist. Not just for herself, but to figure out how to talk to me, how to undo what she now admitted was a catastrophic misunderstanding that became a campaign of cruelty. Her therapist apparently told her not to expect forgiveness. But accountability, Jana told her, that I can try for. She started with the people who mattered most. Her family, our friends, the school board members she used to chat with over coffee. I wasn't there for the conversations, but I imagined the awkward silences, the raised eyebrows, the way her voice must have cracked explaining that the cheating scandal was never real. That she'd acted too fast, too public, too violently. Some people didn't believe her at first. Some didn't care. But she pushed forward anyway, printing out parts of the police report, Melinda's confession, Frank's indictment. She even wrote a letter to the school district superintendent, formally clearing my name. I got a copy in the mail. The last paragraph read, "There was never any infidelity. My reaction was based on false evidence. Derek Mallory is a man of character, and I take full responsibility for the harm done to his name. It wasn't just about me anymore." Jana said that in therapy. It was about what she taught the kids, especially Claire, about how to treat someone when they're accused. How easy it is to believe the worst. I didn't know any of this when I arrived back in town that December. I only knew that Claire hugged me a little longer than usual, and Ben had drawn me a picture of a snowman family, with 4 stick figures, not 3. Ron told me later that people had started to talk. Not with whispers this time, but with something like remorse. One of my former colleagues texted me. "Heard the real story. I owe you an apology." Jana still hadn't spoken to me directly. Not yet. But she was trying, one truth at a time, to rebuild something from the ashes. Not for herself. Not even for us. But for the truth. And for whatever might still be left to salvage. We agreed to meet at a cafe near the kids' school. Neutral ground. Public enough to keep things civil, quiet enough for whatever needed to be said. I got there first, 15 minutes early. Old habit. I picked the table farthest from the window, my back to the wall. I didn't want to be watched, didn't want to feel on display like I had for the last year. She walked in 5 minutes later. No makeup. Hair pulled back. Dressed in a long coat I recognized from a trip to Vermont years ago. Something about that felt intentional, like she wanted me to remember who she used to be. "Hi," she said softly. I nodded, keeping my hands wrapped around my coffee. "Hi." She sat across from me, carefully placing a manila folder on the table between us. I didn't touch it. She didn't push it. "I brought copies," she said. "From the investigation. Police statements. Sworn affidavits. I thought you'd want your own in case people still talk." I nodded once. "Thanks." A silence settled between us. It wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't hostile either. Just unfamiliar. Like we were trying to talk through a fog that hadn't cleared. "I know this won't fix anything," she said finally, voice trembling a little. "But I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry, Derek. For not believing you. For turning our kids against you. For letting my family out." "Don't," I said, cutting her off. "Don't list it all. I was there. I remember." She looked down at her hands. "Right." I took a deep breath, kept my tone even. "You were the person I trusted most. You didn't just doubt me, Jana. You buried me." Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't look away. "I know. I lost everything. My job. My reputation. My home. For over a year, I had to carry a lie I didn't even create. And the worst part? You never even asked me if it was true." She started to say something, then stopped. Whatever excuse she had died in her throat. "I don't hate you," I said quietly. "But I don't want that life back." She blinked. "What?" "I'm not coming back," I said. "To the house. To you. That chapter's done. I'm only here for the kids. That's all that matters now." Her shoulders fell. "But we could go to counseling. Try again. I've been doing the work." You did the work too late." Silence again. Heavy, final. "I'll keep co-parenting. I'll be respectful. But I can't be with someone who saw a picture on a screen and decided that was more real than a decade together." She reached for the folder, then stopped herself. "Can I still send updates?" "Through the lawyer, for now." I stood up. She didn't follow. Just stared at the table. "I hope you find peace," I said. "Really? But whatever we were, that's gone." And I walked out of the cafe into the freezing air, lighter than I'd felt in months. Not because it was over, but because I had finally said it out loud. Jana called her parents that same evening and told them to come over. She didn't give them a reason. Just said, "It's time." Her brother Gavin and sister Natalie showed up too, both wearing those tight, guarded expressions people wear when they know something's coming but don't know how bad it'll be. They sat in the living room like it was any other family gathering. The same couch where Gavin had shoved me a year ago. The same room where she'd cried, screamed, thrown accusations, and said nothing when her family dragged me out. She stood in front of them with a folder in her hand. "This won't take long," she said. "But you're going to listen." Her father sighed and leaned back in his chair like he was settling in for a lecture. Her mother folded her arms. Gavin looked at his phone. Only Natalie seemed a little uneasy. Jana opened the folder. "These are statements from the police. A neighbor's confession. Screenshots of the fake profile. Everything." Her mom frowned. "Jana, what is this about?" "It's about Derek," she said. "He never cheated. The dating profile? The messages? All fake. A neighbor stole his photo and used it to scam women online. Derek lost everything because of it. And we helped destroy him." Gavin scoffed. "Okay, but we didn't know that at the time." "You didn't care to ask," she snapped. "None of you did." Natalie looked down at her hands. Gavin shook his head. "What do you want us to do? Say sorry? What's the point now?" Jana stepped forward. "No. I want you to write it." Gavin blinked. "What?" "A letter. Apologizing for the assault. For helping rip apart a man's life over lies. You don't have to mean it. But you're going to do it." Her father muttered something about this being dramatic, but Jana cut him off. "I was wrong. But I owned it. I've apologized. I'm trying to make things right." "You," she pointed at Gavin, "put your hands on him." "And you," she turned to her mother, stood by and said nothing. And I let it happen. There was a long silence. Then Gavin muttered, "Fine." Jana brought out a notepad and pen. No ceremony. No grand gestures. Just quiet, uncomfortable scribbling from people who weren't used to being held accountable. She mailed the letter the next day. No return address. I got it in Erie a few days later. I didn't read every word. Just the first line. "Derek, we were wrong." That was enough. Not forgiveness. Not closure. But the truth. Finally, in writing. The envelope came on a Thursday. Just plain white. No return address. postmarked from Pittsburgh. Inside was a copy of the formal divorce petition. No letter. No note. Just clean, typed lines and a court date set for the middle of March. There was also a box checked on the last page, petitioner requests full control of visitation schedule. That was me. I wasn't angry when I read it. I wasn't even relieved. It just felt final. Like the last page in a book you stopped reading a long time ago but finally decided to close. I signed the papers that same night and dropped them in the outgoing mail the next morning. No ceremony. No tears. Just a man, a pen, and the quiet sound of things ending. Jana didn't contest anything. Her lawyer confirmed she understood, and that was that. Claire and Ben started therapy not long after. I didn't push it. It was their mom's idea, and for once, she followed through. Twice a month, they met with a child psychologist in town who specialized in family trauma. Claire didn't talk much at first. Ben did, though. He asked questions. About truth. About mistakes. About why grown-ups sometimes stop living in the same house. The psychologist said they were adjusting. That the damage was real but not permanent. That they were resilient. I believed that. I moved again. This time, farther south. A new town, new streets, new keys jingling in my pocket. I took a teaching position at a private academy outside Harrisburg, a small school with a strong focus on arts and character development. The headmaster didn't care about the rumors from Halberton. He just asked if I could lead with compassion and handle 7th graders who still believed in dragons. I said yes. My apartment was small, but the windows let in morning light, and the kitchen didn't leak, and no one looked at me like a story they'd already decided how to end. I spent the first weekend hanging framed photos of my kids on hikes at school plays, the one from 3 summers ago where Ben fell asleep in my lap during fireworks. I didn't put up any pictures of me and Jana. That part was over. Still, she kept her word. I started hearing from people back home. An old friend from the district board emailed to say, "I'm sorry for what I believed." Another sent a Christmas card that just read, "We know better now." It didn't change the past, but it meant something. Jana never stopped trying, not to win me back, but to fix the story. She didn't beg. She didn't whine. She just kept telling the truth, even when it was too late to get me back. And that was enough. Not for a reunion. Not for romance. But for peace. For the kids. For the version of me that needed the truth to live somewhere in the world. Even if that place was far away from where it all started. 3 years later, everything feels quieter. I live in Lancaster now, still teaching at the private academy. 7th graders still believe in dragons, and I still let them. My hair's grayer than it used to be, and I keep a French press in my classroom because the staff room coffee is still unbearable. Most mornings, I bike to work. On weekends, I hike the nearby trails or visit the local farmer's market. It's not a flashy life, but it's mine. And after everything, that means more than I can explain. I'm in a relationship now. Her name's Amanda. She's a science teacher at the school. Steady, kind, doesn't rush me when I need quiet. We've been together almost a year. She knows everything. I told her early on about the fake profile, the separation, the custody schedule, the fallout. I expected her to pull back. Instead, she just said, "That must have hurt like hell," and poured me another cup of tea. Claire is 16 now. Ben just turned 12. They split holidays between Jana and me. It's awkward sometimes, but we make it work. Therapy helped. Not just for them, for all of us. They know the truth now. Not because I told them directly, but because time reveals things. They've read enough between the lines to understand what happened. Claire asked once, "Do you still hate Mom?" And I told her honestly, no. But I needed to leave. That was enough for her. As for Jana, she got remarried last year. A quiet courthouse ceremony. The kids told me about it on the way back from one of our weekends together. I didn't ask questions. I just nodded and said, "I hope she's happy." She is, from what I hear. Steady job. Small house. Still goes to therapy. Still sends updates when it matters. And she never stopped correcting the narrative. Every year, someone new reaches out. "Hey, I just heard the full story. I was wrong about you. I'm sorry." That part never really ends. The damage wasn't a wound, it was a brand. But the truth, over time, softened it. Made it bearable. Sometimes, even forgettable. A few months ago, I went to an alumni fundraiser back in Halberton. Not for the school, just an event in town. I wasn't planning on staying long. But as I moved through the room, someone tapped my arm. It was Mr. Burke, a former board member. The same man who once voted against renewing my contract. "I heard the truth," he said, voice low. "Took me too long. But I know now." I didn't say much. Just nodded. "Thanks." As he walked away, I felt something shift, small, but real. A corner of the past folding in on itself. I didn't need a parade. I didn't need an apology from every person who got it wrong. But that one quiet moment, that was enough. Justice, in pieces. Redemption, from a distance. And a future I built without asking anyone's permission. Scarred. Sure. But whole. and still standing.